All right, mics are hot, so quiet on set, please.
I've been in business specializing in sales and marketing since 1980. I'm an executive coach, an international trainer and speaker, an author, a TV show host, husband, and father. Like many, I've experienced a freak accident and almost died from it. The impact from a hit to the back of my head dissected an artery in my brain, and a few days later, I had a significant cerebellar stroke. Since my stroke, I've been researching and seeking answers to many of the questions that come to light when you live through a traumatic event like this. I'll share what I've learned about living full out, how to prosper in difficult times. We'll talk about some current events and always end with some inspiration and encouragement that you just might need at this particular moment. This is Scott Schilling Speaks. Scott Schilling Speaks is powered by Be Connected, the premier online hub for business owners and professionals to connect and collaborate for greater success. To learn how Be Connected will help you and your business, go to bkfreefor3.com. Hi, and welcome to Scott Schilling Speaks. I'm Scott Schilling, and I am absolutely elated today because I get to bring to everybody in this audience one of my mentors, a friend, somebody that I've learned so much from. In fact, before this show opened, we were talking about all the different things that I've learned from him. I'm so honored to have him. Jack Canfield, the co-creator of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Jack, thanks for joining me here on Scott Schilling Speaks.
My pleasure, Scott. I always love being with you.
It was so much fun pre-show as we were talking about all the different things, and there's so many different directions we can go. One of the things that I want to talk about is we were talking about the first time you and I met back in 2003, and I got introduced to you, and very quickly you said, "What is it you do?" And I said, "I'm the vice president of sales and marketing for a company." And without a spare second, you said, "But what do you really want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to share the stage with you in front of 10,000 in January in Las Vegas." And you put out your hand and you said, "I'll see you there." Now, you could have said anything to me at that time. That was a game changer for me and so many others. How does that make you feel?
Well, given what you've accomplished and who you've become and who you already were, and the impact you've had in the world, and the books you've written, and the speeches you've given, and the lives you've affected, that makes me feel very good. My life purpose is to inspire and empower people to live their highest vision in a context of love and joy. And if at any point I inspired or empowered you to do that, then I fulfilled my purpose. And so it makes me feel great. And we've been friends over the years. I've visited your home in Texas, and we've spoken on stages together. And so it makes me feel great.
Well, it just is amazing to be able to reminisce about so many great pieces of knowledge that I've gained from you through the years. And obviously, 500 million plus books in the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. You've touched so many lives around the world. The Success Principles, the Aladdin Factor, book after book. We could take the whole time just giving your credentials and everything. But let's use this time to serve everybody in the audience, because we're at a unprecedented time in our existence with the pandemic. As the expert that you are, Jack, how are you helping people get through this unprecedented time?
Well, when it first happened, mid-March, when I think we all realized we were in trouble, I must have done over the next couple of months, couple hundred podcasts, summits, people that were, saying, okay, we've got to help all the people out there and get them out of fear, basically, and teach them how to pivot and not let them get panicked. Because as soon as you go into fear, all of your energy goes into your back of your brain. And basically then you hijack the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is where the creative thinking, where rational thinking occurs. And for so many of us, what happens is when the pandemic hit, everyone got like, I'm going to lose my house, I'm going to lose my job, I'm going to lose my grandfather or my father, maybe my own life or wife or son or whatever. And so people weren't thinking really clearly. And a lot of people just froze. Whenever there's fear, you either freeze or you flee, go into denial. A lot of people started binge watching television. I saw a meme the other day that said, when I come out of the pandemic, I'm either going to be a chunk or a hunk or a drunk, meaning I'm going to eat too much, drink too much, or exercise all the time. And so I think what happens is, for me, what I felt the thing I could do best was help people realize that this is how your brain is working, that we have to go into focusing on what we want to happen, not what we're afraid will happen. Because what happens is you have a function called your imagination. And your imagination can either create pictures of success, pictures of ideal outcomes, what you want, or it can create pictures of your worst nightmares, your fears. And so fear is just visualizing things that you don't like happening in the future. So even right now, if there was a snake in your studio and it was slithering toward you, you'd have to go into the future and imagining being bitten in order to feel fear. Because if it was just slithering around, no big deal. So the idea is most of us we went from where we were into the future, and a lot of people are still doing that. As we get this second wave of the coronavirus that's happening right now in states like yours and mine in California and other states that are like, the hot spots, what happens is people are again going into a lot of fear. And you can feel it in the kind of, I don't know what you want to call it, the earth energy field. There's just a level of fear, as we're going into Thanksgiving and we have people, are you afraid to travel or not? And what if my son comes home from college? Am I going to get it? And so I think a lot of people are still there. So what I just would say to wrap the answer to this up is that you have this ability to focus on what you want or what you don't want. Martin Luther King's famous speech was not, I have a complaint. It was, I have a dream. And so he knew that complaining about how bad things were and being angry about it wasn't going to get anything done. He had to focus on what he wanted to create. Now, obviously, we're not fully there yet. We have a lot to go. But we're farther than we were, when he was around. So I think what I just would recommend to everybody, because I've been doing a lot of these podcasts, like end of year, things for people, and saying, look at 2021 and ask yourself, what do I want it to look like? Not what am I afraid is going to happen, but what do I want to create? What do I want to do? And then visualize that. Create an affirmation for it. Ask yourself, what are the steps that I would have to take that would actually produce that result? And then start taking those steps. I'll just say one last thing. The other thing I found this was true among me and my friends, but I also found it was true in research. There was a thing published, I think it was Inc. Online recently, where this guy had interviewed 23 CEOs, and he found that about half of them pivoted really well and their companies were doing well, and the other half didn't. And what he found was two things that were really interesting. Number one, the people that pivoted well instantly when they knew there was a problem, reached out to other CEOs and other people in their field, mentors, et cetera, and said, what are you doing? What do you think we should do? What's going to happen, et cetera? And so they were willing to ask for advice, ask for mentorship, collaborate. And they succeeded, whereas the other people kind of went into fear and we were months and months and months behind before they began to pivot, sometimes a little too late. The other thing they found with this group, all of the people that pivoted quickly were meditators. And they either had a very active meditation or prayer practice. And so I'm always teaching meditation. In my book, The Success Principles, I have 67 principles of success that I learned from interviewing 75 of North America's most successful people. And one of the things they did was meditate, most of them, 80% of them. And I recently wrote a foreword to a book called The Billionaire Secret. This friend of mine interviewed 21 billionaires in 17 countries, 17 different industries. every one of those billionaires from ages 39 to 81 had meditation practice, and they never missed meditation. So one of the ways to stay calm in chaos and in a pandemic where there's chaos is to meditate, so you can tap into whether you call it a higher power like God or infinite source energy, or whether you call it your own subconscious mind or higher self or spirit guides or whatever you want to call it. The reality is it's always available to us, but we have to create a space for it. And meditation is the way to do that.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible to me how many people have jumped straight into fear with everything. And there's no doubt that it's a tough time. And nobody's trying to suggest that it's not. What's an easy way to stay in possibility thinking and seeing that potential great vision going forward?
Well, I think, people watching your show, people watching TED Talks, people looking at, whether it's Tony Robbins videos or my videos or Brian Tracy or Lisa Nichols or you or whatever, the reality is there are positive voices out there. And so if that's not your normal go-to default mode, then you need to surround yourself with people like that. And that can be done through books. It can be done through videos. It can be done through watching, things online, whatever, listening to CDs or listening to your, downloads, podcasts from Apple or wherever. And I think, I think who John Assaraf is. And
Oh, yeah.
John was in the secret with me, and John, I had him on a show recently where I had him talking to a bunch of my students. And one of the things he talked about was how critical it is to constantly surround yourself with positive images, positive lyrics and songs, positive TV shows. Unfortunately, most people that are not being successful are watching too much news. And so the news tends to be fairly negative. Now, you need to know some things, what's the CDC saying lately, and, what is your doctor saying, and, what's going on in the world. But most people are watching way too much news. And, it doesn't change all that much from day to day. So if something really horrendous happens, you're going to find out about it. No one needed to be watching news to know 9/11 happened. Someone told you pretty quickly. And so my mentor, W. Clement Stone, when I went to work for him back in the 1970s, I think it was, he asked me if I was watching news. And I said, yes. He said, do you watch TV a lot? And I said, I don't know. He said, think, young man. I said, okay. And so I said, I guess I watched 3 hours a day. It was like Good Morning America, the evening news, and then maybe 1 hour of something else at night. And he said, I want you to stop watching so much news because it's all negative. It's always, there's a war, someone got killed, there was a rape, there was a shooting, there was a robbery, there was this, and it's just different names on different dates, And so, and especially if you watch that right before you go to bed, we know now your subconscious is playing that stuff 6 times through the night, more than everything else that happened during the day. So at nighttime, especially, you want to be, reading something uplifting or watching something uplifting, even if it's just comedy, before you go to bed, and do the same thing in the morning. I teach the hour of power, which is 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of vigorous aerobic or high fitness, exercise like you do with the stair stepper, the high intensity interval training, or 20 minutes of meditation. So meditate or reading. So 20 minutes of meditation, exercise, reading. In the book, the Billionaire Secret, which I wrote the foreword to, they found out that every billionaire he interviewed got up by 5 a.m. And, there's a number of books being written now. Robin Sharma wrote the 5 a.m. Club. Another guy, wrote 10 minutes in the morning, whatever. But the idea is you get up and you get yourself into that space of positivity by either reading something uplifting, listening to something uplifting, whatever. And then finally, this is something John Assaraf taught me, and I'm going to share it with you because it's so freaking cool. And it's about the importance of affirmations and visualization and literally rehearsing to be the life and the person you want to be. So he told this story that I've been telling to everybody because it's so cool. So imagine, Scott, you're sitting and you're having lunch. Now you're able to go out again. You're having lunch at a restaurant, and you look over and there's Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, and they're having lunch together. And you notice they keep looking over at you. And when you look over at them, they look away. And, one of those things you often do when you see celebrities. And so all of a sudden they get up and they walk over to you and they stop at your table and they say, um, you know who we are. Yeah. What's your name? You say Scott Schilling. They say, we've been watching you. And you have the face, the body size, the movements, the mannerisms, the voice tone, everything we're looking for this person we want to cast in this movie we're about to do next year. And we think you could do the part. And what we'll do, if you're interested, we'll give you $1 million up front. All you have to do is take the script. You've got a year to learn it. We'll provide you with the best acting coaches, the best voice coaches, the best research people if you want to research your character, time of history, motivation, all that. And we think you could win an Academy Award because the part is so central to this movie and it's such a dramatic part. And then if you do it, when you film it, we'll give you another $4 million. What would you do, Scott?
I'd say, yes, sir. Let me have that script.
Okay.
Let's go.
And then after you got the script and you went home, what would you do then?
I'd start studying immediately.
Yeah, you'd start studying and you'd memorize that script until you had it down, until you were like living the script. We hear about actors like Daniel Day-Lewis and people like that who become the part. They don't even, like when he was playing Lincoln, he was still Lincoln on the breaks. He never would break the part. I remember George C. Scott. My cousin was in a movie with him. He played his aide who got blown up a third of the way through the movie. And George C. Scott, after the movie, his wife almost divorced him because he was still Patton for months. And Patton was not a good guy to live with. He was too officious and arrogant and all that. Finally, he kind of got out of character. But here's the deal. If you have a goal and a dream, and all I told you was all you have to do is every day close your eyes, say your affirmation. I'm so happy and grateful that I'm now making $1 million a year. I'm so happy and grateful I'm now influencing 1 million students to, go to college and not live in the ghetto and become a gang member, whatever. What happens is you would then visualize your life, the life you would live, the food you would eat, the clothes you would wear, the house you would live in, whatever your goal was, and how you would be, your voice, your character, your attitude, etc.
Yeah.
You'd become it. And so every day you have an opportunity with your vision board, with your closed eye visualization of your ideal dream of living that life and your affirmations. And that's literally what we're offering to everybody, just like Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg were offering to you, Scott Schilling, in that little metaphor. And so the reality is we have to rehearse to become the person we want to be. And it's called intentional, building up the energy of acting as if. And most people don't do that. Most people rehearse their current life all day long. They just keep creating the same life because what you're thinking and doing now is creating what you're going to be in the future. And everything you are now is because of what you thought and what you did in the past. And so the future won't change if you don't change your inner dialogue, your thinking, your emotions, and your behavior and your imagination, the pictures you see. So that's the opportunity we all have. So if you want to be more positive, you've got to start living in a circle of positivity. We talked about outside influences, but internally. I was working with a guy, I have a client I work with. He's in Miami. He was an ex-movie producer. He had a production company, sold his part, tens of millions, lives in Miami now. And after about 6 months, he called me up and he said, I'm really frustrated because I don't have anything to do. I don't know what my next step is. I don't know what my purpose is. So I'm working with him and we started to do this process. And the part that was most challenging for him was to feel the feelings he would feel when he was successful. He wanted to become an artist and start doing these major art pieces, which are really creative, which he shared with me. And I said, so now you're an artist, you're doing this work, you're out there in the world, people are coming to your gallery, they're fading you, they're telling you you're amazing, they're the headlines in the newspaper about this new great Miami artist. What would you be feeling inside? And he said, well, I'd be feeling courageous and brave and satisfied and loved and appreciated. And I said, great, close your eyes and feel those feelings. And it took him about 4 minutes to really get into that. And I said, great. He said, yeah, I'm fully there now. And I said, okay, great. Where you are now is a 1, 10 times it. You have to be 10 times more, feel it more intensely, 10 times more. And so it took him about another 3 or 4 minutes, and then he got it. And you could just see his whole face just started to, he had his eyes closed, but his whole face just started to beam. He was smiling. So that's the work. You have to step into it and become it, because it's an internal job. You know, our friend Marcy Shimoff, who co-authored Chicken Soup for the Woman's Soul, wrote a book called Happy for No Reason.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you don't need an external reason to be happy. You have to generate the happiness from inside. And it's something you can do. Think happy thoughts. You know, I mean, Peter Pan taught us that.
Well, I think the big part is we got to love ourselves. If we don't love ourselves, we can't give it away, number one. But
Yes.
you know, just as you were sharing that explanation, and knowing, you know, John had visualized his perfect house and ended up having that same house one time, you know, years later, it made me think of, as I was writing my first book, Talking with Giants, and the morning proclamation that I had is, I'm attracting everything into my life I need to cause over $100 million in charitable giving. And then there was some extensions past that as well. And I just sat there and I went, why haven't I done that every day since 2003? Why did I ever stop? Why do we stop when we get on the path of doing the right things? And why don't we just keep going? I need,
Well,
as
I
my
think
mentor, I need some help with this one.
Okay. I'll tell you why we don't keep going. Number one, the culture doesn't support it. Number
Okay.
two, before you started it, you probably had 30 or 40 some years of not doing it. So you had a lot of practice of the opposite. So one of the things that I teach is having an accountability partner. And every day you check in with your accountability partner. I know you're part of a mastermind group, and
Okay.
that's great. But mastermind groups usually meet every 2 weeks or every month or something like that. It's not enough constant accountability. So there's been a ton of studies done in the last 5 or 6 years about accountability. And once you have an accountability partner, and most of us don't have bosses. You know, we're solo entrepreneurs. We're the head of our own small organizations, but most people work for a boss. So they're accountable to do the things that their boss is paying them for. But for most of us, we don't have anyone holding us accountable to do the things that are for our own good. And so if you and I were accountability partners, we'd call each other 5 days a week. And I would say, you know, here's my 5 action steps. And one of them would be to do my visualization and affirmation practice. And I would have that on your list as well. And each day I'd say to you in our 5-minute call, did you do your affirmation, visualization, meditation process? And if you said no, I'd say, are you willing to recommit to that tomorrow? And if you said yes, I'd check in with you again tomorrow. And I keep doing that every day. And you'd do it because you'd be embarrassed to tell me you didn't do it. And so it just becomes that. The second thing is the word remind. You know, our mind is there, but we have to remind ourselves, like get our mind operating again in alignment with what we want. And so we can put reminders around our life. So you can have I have these Post-its that are the size of index cards that I put on my mirror that says, meditate, you know, floss your teeth. And until I don't have to do it anymore. You know, I floss my teeth naturally now. I don't have to be reminded. But there was about a year where I had to remember to do it because I never learned to do that growing up as a kid. We did not have, you know, the level of oral hygiene standards in my family that one might have wished. But I now have still all my teeth because I learned to do that when my dentist said, you don't have to floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep. So I said, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But the idea is have reminders on the refrigerator, on your cell phone when you open it up, you know, like maybe the screensaver has your, you know, 5 things you have to do every day to achieve your goals. But that's so important. And the other thing I would say, Scott, that I've learned is if you don't schedule it, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
There's research that shows when you work from a to-do list, we tend to look at the list and do the easiest things first. But if I schedule something, meditation, exercise, and reading from 6:30 to 7:30, then it's on my schedule. I see it when I wake up. I look at my Google schedule and it's there every morning because I do that repeat every day thing. And so there's literally companies. All their consultants do is teach people how to work from a schedule rather than to work from a to-do list. And it's so valuable, so important. It's worth the effort and the money to learn how to do that. So once it's in your schedule and your calendar, then what happens is it's more likely to get done. And if it can be a consistent time of day every day, like, you eat like at 12 or 12:30 and you eat again at 6 or 6:30, whatever, it becomes that habit. And then all of a sudden, we even know that road rage is a biochemical habit. Like
Wow.
people get on the road at 6 o'clock and there's part of their brain going, where's that chemical mix we usually get around this time? And so it will get you to get upset so you can have that habitual flood of the brain chemicals that your brain gets used to.
Well, it's interesting with the pandemic. What I noticed is I was in a really good morning ritual place, going to the club every morning, and my meditation room, I would go into the steam room and I would say the Lord's Prayer, and then I'd say, Lord, what do you have for me today? And I would sit and listen and hope that he gave me something before I died because of the steam room. It wasn't a steam room. But I would get those answers, and that was really my meditation place. And then all of a sudden, because of COVID, the club shut down. And I got out of my normal routine. And
Yeah.
it was absolutely amazing how much difference that made. And you'll maybe find this interesting, because what I decided to do is, we've got a room that's got a massage chair in it, and I turned that into an imaginary steam room for me. Is I took the practices that I was doing at the club and I moved them into our house. Because somebody reminded me of it one day, and all of a sudden I said, why am I not doing this? But one of the things that I did is, now that I had the ability to have my iPod there, is I started listening to disc number 6 of Self-Esteem and Peak Performance, the Tri-Sync integration process. And I can tell you today, that's just as valuable to me. I listened to it this morning. It's just as valuable to me today as when it first came out in 2003, 4, or 5, somewhere in there. Amazing process. So I agree with you on the staying in that morning routine.
Yeah, I was going to suggest for about $1,200, you can get an infrared sauna put into your garage or something, and you could go in there and sweat. I have one, and my wife and I do that regularly. But I want to reinforce something you said, which is, when you have a dedicated place. So it was your steam room. Now it's your room with your massage chair in it. I assume you mean the kind you lay back in and it massages your back, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happens is, every time you walk by that chair now, it reminds you that's a place you do that. A lot of people will they'll create an altar in their home. People that meditate a lot, or maybe they have a meditation cushion, and they'll have a little table on the floor level which has a picture of, it could be Jesus or their Indian guru or whatever, and maybe a crystal or something. But it reminds them, this is where you do that. So when you walk by it, it's a visual reminder again. That's what's so important. The reason monks all wear orange, or the Catholic priests all wear the brown robes when they're monks, or the black and white, as they become full-fledged priests and all. And when you go into a monastery, everywhere you look, there's pictures of Jesus, or if you're over in the Hindu monastery, there might be pictures of Krishna in India. But everywhere you look, it reminds you why you're there. It says, oh, I'm here because I'm devoted my life to Christ, or I'm here because I am going to meditate every day, or I'm here because I'm, seeking enlightenment. And so the more things you can put into your environment to remind you of your goals, like, I have my goals on my screensaver. I have them in a those things when you go to a conference and they have those plastic stands, you can put a little thing in that says, tapes available for $3.99. So I have them in there on my desk. If I get in my car, I've got them taped to my dashboard, etc. So I'm constantly being reminded of what I'm committed to, of what just like when you have a wedding ring on, if you were to go out to a bar and you were about to reach out and touch some woman, you see your wedding ring, you go, oh yeah, I made a commitment. I'm not going to do that. So the ring is a reminder, So I think it's very powerful what you're talking about in terms of that.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because all of a sudden it made sense to me to take the practice and move it inside the house. But I didn't
Yeah.
really think about the walking past the room or seeing the chair or doing that. It's amazing, though, that because somebody said to me, because we launched a company in the middle of this pandemic, which is sponsoring the show Be Connected. And it's all about connectivity and working to put people back together in the world. And so we're sharing messages all day long, and there's a lot of work to launch a company in the pandemic. But the reality is, one of our COO and co-founder, Johnny Reed, Jer said to me one day, he said, "Are you meditating?" And I said, "Well, I used to when I was going to the club." And all of a sudden, that's all it took for him to say. And I pulled back to, again, one of your lessons that, and I was thinking about it actually this morning, how many hundreds of times I have listened to that since I first got it. It's amazing that you can play the same information, hear different things at different times, and what you need at that time shows up. So the meditation, if we would learn to allow and get quiet, probably get quiet first and then allow, it'd be amazing what would show up.
Yeah. No, I would say two things. First, just a little plug for the self-esteem and peak performance tapes, and the idea that there is this tape at the end called TriSync, and also we did one called what's it called, Maximum Confidence, which is the Nightingale Conant program, which has that. And you can go to my website at jackcanfield.com and you can get it as an MP3 download now to your computer, your iPad, whatever. Used to have to send out cassettes and then eventually CDs, and now you can just download everything. But just jackcanfield.com. It's a great program with a lot of concepts that are valuable we're talking about, as well as these processes. And the thing about TriSync, which is so cool, is you have a voice in your right ear, a voice in your left ear, and a voice coming at you in the middle. Two men and a woman. And what's cool about it, the technology behind it, is you can only listen to one voice at a time. The brain can only focus on one. It can jump back and forth pretty quickly. But when you're focusing on this one's going in without you arguing with it, straight into your subconscious mind. And they're all statements you're hearing that are empowering you, inspiring you, and building your self-esteem, building your self-confidence, encouraging you to take action in the world and so forth. So it literally is a way of like programming past your limiting filters, if you will, to get the upliftment that's there. So good for you. That's great.
Well, it's interesting because I actually wore out multiple sets of cassettes of self-esteem and peak performance, and then you came out with Maximum Confidence in CDs, and that's what I'm still listening to this day. So it's fascinating to me. But again, that was a practice that, again, literally I was thinking about the hundreds of times I've listened to it over the years, and then you go, but why would you ever stop? You know, we have that, you know, we're going through some pretty rough times on a lot of people. And it doesn't seem like the things that could help us move forward are necessarily all that difficult. Would that be true?
No, they're not that difficult and they're not that expensive. That's the other thing to realize. You know, I'd love if people come in and purchase those programs. They work. But you can also go online and find all kinds of things for free on YouTube and so forth, you know, that you can listen to, and their meditations. I just listened to a Bob Proctor meditation the other day online. It was really profound. A guy named Dawson Church has something called Echo Meditation. It's really profound, using tapping and meditation together. So there's so much technology now. But the key is, someone said recently that a friend is someone who reminds you of what you know to do when you've forgotten to do it. You know, when you're scared, when something, tragedy happens, you know, someone gets sick, or you lose your job, or your son lost his job, or your daughter moves back home, or whatever, you know, that stress often takes us out of our prefrontal cortex, as I talked about. And we go into that fear, then we don't have the wherewithal sometimes to remember something. Like I was, last night I was, my son and my daughter-in-law actually have come down to live. We have a barn on our property. So they're social distancing for Thanksgiving by living in the barn. and then we eat outside about 8 feet apart at this long table. Last night was the first night they came down to do that. And she has a very rare kidney disease where she had to have a kidney transplant from her father. And so she's in a super compromised situation. And yet what she does for a living, she's an esthetician. And she talked about how she just became one recently. And she wears an N95 mask. She wears another mask over that. She wears a face shield over that. She has like a PPE, kind of garb that you see in the emergency rooms, when you're looking at the COVID news and all that. But the important part was she said, I kind of feel guilty charging $250 for a treatment. And I said, why? She says, well, I've only been doing it several months and there are people that have been doing it for years. And I asked her one question. I said, what can they do that you can't do? And she said, nothing. And then I said, remember that. And she said, wow, that just changed everything. That one question just changed everything.
Yeah.
So sometimes we need someone outside of us to remind us to meditate, to exercise, to get more sleep, to take a risk, to reach out, to do whatever, read a book, because we forget. And that's just the nature of it. That's why community is so important. That's why church is so important. People reminding each other, coming together in community, and supporting each other. And there's going to be times when you're down and someone's going to lift you up. There's going to be a time when they're down and you're going to lift them up. You can't be all that. I mean, life's a waveform. You wouldn't know joy if there wasn't sorrow. There'd be no contrast. Without contrast, we can't experience anything.
Well, I mean, that's a tremendously valuable point right there. But it's one of the things that I know through the pandemic, I've said, I'm not social distancing. I will physically distance from people, but I'm not social distancing. Actually, I'm upping my social game because I think that that's one of the things that, quite frankly, we need to do. I'm not making light of the fact we need to stay 6 feet apart. I believe we need to do that. But that's physical distancing. That's not social distancing.
I like that distinction. That's good. Yeah, I've probably interacted with thousands of people on the same platform we're talking on today over the last 6.5 months. But yeah, and also just, from the point of view of you wanting to do all the charitable work you do and support all of that, everyone needs to realize there's someone in your life right now who's lonely, someone in your life who is living alone in an apartment or who's not getting together with their family this Thanksgiving. For me, it's my sister, and reaching out to her on a regular basis. And I didn't have to do that before, but I know she's lonely. And so it's kind of like like when you tithe money, you can tithe your time right now and connect with people.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. Now, I know you got a new program coming out called Reignite Your Life. We want to let everybody know about that. What's that going to be all about?
Well, Reignite Your Life, we've done it once and we pivoted. Basically, we used to do a program called Breakthrough to Success. You've taken that when it was a live training. And by live, I mean we met in hotel rooms. I think you did it in Las Vegas. Right. And so all of a sudden, we couldn't do that anymore. So we said, how do we bring this program and put it online and do it in a way that works and have it work better than we used to have our Breakthrough to Success. So it's a 4-month program that meets for 2 hours, usually goes a little bit over because no one wants to leave and we stay and do Q&A until most people don't want to be there anymore. So 2 to 2.5 hours every 2 weeks for 4 months. And then we also have 4 guest experts, guest expert every month. We've had Lisa Nichols, John Assaraf. We had a woman named Sherry, forgetting her last name right now, but she wrote a book called Buddha in the Bedroom. She's a sexual relationships expert who was really amazing. We had Jarek Robbins, who's Tony Robbins' son, who's every bit as profound and maybe even more so than his father. He's a business consultant who really shared great ideas. So we'll have all that in the archive for people who join. We started another group in January, but registration is open now. And also we'll have 4 new experts as well. And then we have office hours where people, every couple of weeks they can come in with questions. And so we take people through getting clear about their vision, their goals, their affirmations, their visualization, creating mastermind groups and accountability partners, doing all the things we would do to help people be super successful. And what we've discovered, Scott, that's so cool is that because it's now 2 weeks apart over 4 months, when we do the first 2 weeks, we have challenges we'd have people do every day. So it's like the problem with weekend workshops is people come and take them and they go home and they kind of forget most of what they learned. And this way, all through the next 2 weeks, we have a Facebook community. We have a community manager who manages all these challenges and record keeping and accountability partners and all that. So it's really a very intense program where we ask you to look at 7 areas of your life. You score each area how you're doing on a scale of 1 to 10. So things like social life, friends and family, finances, job and career, fun and recreation, philanthropy, possessions, all of that stuff. And then you pick 1 or 2 areas that you want to work on in depth over the 4 months. And you pick a breakthrough goal you want to achieve in that 4-month period. For example, in this last one, we had an art dealer who had never sold $1 million piece of art before. And he goes and he works with wealthy people and kind of finds what they're looking for and helps them locate things. And he sold his first $1 million piece of art during this 4 months. And because of some things we taught him to do and challenged him to do. And just 2 days ago, he told me he's now got a client that's about to spend $10 million on a Monet pastel.
Wow.
And so basically his life is radically transformed. Everyone that's in that class, we've got about a 95% evaluation that said they had a major breakthrough, that they achieved their breakthrough goal. And so we're really excited now because the ongoing support that people get, they can take 1 or 2 areas of their life and really have a major breakthrough and have it be supported all the way with Patty. And Patty Aubrey's my business partner, as you know, and she's also my coaching partner. So she brings her perspective, which is a little more of the business side than I have. She was always the business side. I was more of the transformational side, the experiential side, the psychological side. So it's an amazing, good team. And it's powerful. And I think we had last time about 270 people join the course from 47 countries. And
Nice.
that's what's also cool is we break people into small groups. We're still experiential. And we'll break people into small groups and have them do exercises so the ahas come from them, not just me talking at you like we've been doing this whole time, but you're having your own internal awarenesses and you're having the benefit of other people. So people have partnered up, people from Argentina, people from Singapore and India and Europe and helping each other out. Really quite extraordinary.
Well, I know how fantastic Breakthrough to Success was. Not only did I go through it multiple times, the various levels of it, but then I was one of the facilitators of multiple, and it was phenomenal to be part of all that. And in fact, as I was promoting our conversation here today, one of our former Inner Circle members said, make sure you say hi to Jack for me. So Ann Spritos, or now Benjamin, says hi.
Yeah, hi back.
It's amazing the community that's created over the years with your teachings, because success really doesn't change over time, does it? I mean, you may implement it a little bit differently, but the foundational feeling and everything behind it stays the same, right?
You can go back to writings in ancient Egypt, Babylonia, Greece, Rome. All these people that were writing about success, about philosophy, were teaching the same things. And then go back to the existentialists, Ralph Waldo Emerson and Thoreau, living up in Walden, Mass, who were doing the exact same thing, teaching the exact same things. And the people I was over in India for the whole month of February at an Ayurvedic healing center where I was just doing a detox and eating mung bean soup every day, basically, and getting massages and steam baths and all that stuff. And it was very good. I lost almost 30 pounds and my blood pressure went down and came back and eating much more healthy than I was. But what happened is the doctor who was over there that was working with us, his doctor lived to be 124 years old, his teacher.
Wow.
And he was teaching me things about success that he learned from his teacher, who learned it from his teacher, who learned from his teacher. It goes back to the lineage, Scott, of the guy who was the doctor to Buddha. And that's the
Wow.
lineage that's been passed down. And one of the things they were teaching, which is really fascinating, was when you visualize, imagine visualizing, putting your visualization in a white frame above and out to the right of your right eye. And for whatever reason, and I haven't gone back and looked at NLP, neuro-linguistic program, I think it would teach the same thing. But this knowledge has been around for centuries, but it used to be only the province of the kings and the pharaohs and the sheikhs and all those people. And, what The Secret tried to say in the way they opened that movie was this was once the secret of these wealthy people, and they didn't want anyone else to know. And now the secret's out and it's become more and more aware. The Secret is still the number one watched DVD in China, believe it or not.
Wow.
And I don't know if you know this, but I got invited to speak in Iran, which is one of our so-called enemies, and to go there, which I did. I had to go to the Pakistani embassy to get a visa because you can't get one through. There's no Iranian, embassy in America. But I got there and it was 850 people came to my group, and I thought, how? And it turned out they had played The Secret 6 times on national television, which I thought the Ayatollah allowed that. Are you kidding me? But it's like these secrets, if you will, these principles of success have been around forever. So yeah, we learned some new things like EFT tapping and neuro-linguistic programming and things like that. But basically, it's the same old, and it's universal. It's timeless. It's what works.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, and I'm excited that I'm back into the study of things again, and not just the execution. With the things we're doing with the new company, and it's causing me to get back in the role of student a whole lot more, and also the role of teacher. And every time we teach, we learn. Jack, I could keep this going all day long, and I so value your time. Give us one last piece of wisdom for how to not only survive but thrive through the rest of 2020 and going into 2021.
I will do that. I'm going to do a shameless self-promotion for a second. If you haven't read my book, let's get it there so you can see it, called The Success Principles.
The Success
I share that
Bible.
with you. Yes, and it's now in its revised edition. We've sold over 1 million copies in 47 languages. I do not need to make another doctor. I make $1 a book. I don't need another dollar. I've sold 500 million books, as you heard. And this year we came out with the Success Principles workbook, which is new. Took 17 of the most powerful principles and put it into a coaching format. That's available too. Like you can work your way through those. And so I encourage, if you don't have that, I really encourage you to have that. And I just would say, lastly, Scott mentioned our Reignite Your Life coaching program. There's a couple ways to get in touch with that. Just go to jackcanfield.com. You can put your name in our mailing list there, and you'll get an email about it. Or you can go to info. You can send an email to info@jackcanfield.com. Give us your phone number. I'll have one of my staff call you, answer any questions. They'd be glad to enroll you. We'd love to have you join us. And again, I don't need the money, but I love watching people's lives transform. That's what I'm about. So as far as like timeless last words of wisdom, I would simply say that I think that you all have within you whatever you need to not only survive the pandemic, but to thrive through it. Now, you may have to get out of your comfort zone. You may have to partner up with some other people. You may have to learn some new things. You might have to go even back to school online to follow your dream. See, I think that what's happened with the pandemic is nature said, look, you guys are not paying attention. You got to go to your room. I'm giving you a timeout. I want you to go think about what you did. This is a lockdown. So we are global warming is out of control. We have climate change. We have our justice system is not functioning totally. This is why the whole Black Lives Matter things started to happen this summer. The rise of feminism again, the young people coming out and getting involved in politics and action in a way they never have. People being at home and not having to go to work and starting to think, do I really love that job? I like being at home. I don't know if I want like that hour and a half commute, from Fort Worth to wherever it is you got to go. So the point is that I think the reality is that we have a reset. This is like a reboot. We all have the opportunity to really re-examine ourselves, to think deeply, to go inside and say, am I doing the thing that's bringing me the greatest joy? Remember, joy is your feedback system. It tells you if you're on course or not. And if you're not experiencing joy most of the time, if you're raising a baby and you're changing his poopy diaper, that's probably not the most joyous thing on the planet. But if you're not enjoying being a parent, or if you're not enjoying your job, or if you're not having joy in your relationship, then you need to be looking at, it's your body's way of saying you're off course. You're not doing the thing that's going to fulfill your purpose. I believe each of you is here with a purpose to fulfill, just like Scott decided one of his purposes was to help raise all this money for charity to make a difference in the world and to create these conversations among masters and this show now of bringing these people to you. My purpose to inspire and empower people to live our lives. You have a purpose. And so it's your responsibility to find out what that is and then live it. And when you do that, every need in the world will get met if everyone would live their purpose. If you're inspired to be a musician, we need your music. If you're inspired to be a chef, we need your food that you're going to cook. If you're inspired to be a farmer, we need the things you're going to raise so that we can live. If you're inspired to be a mechanic, we need you so the planes don't fall out of the sky. So whatever it is that you're drawn to do, let yourself follow that, follow your heart, and know that this pandemic is like a pit stop on a race. And it's not over. We're just in there putting some new tires on, maybe lubing up whatever we need to do so we can get back on the track. But it's just a time for a little introspection, and then take the steps you need to take that into action.
Totally agree with you, Jack. Thank you. I actually did a devotional at Ziegler Corporation, and the title is, I'm Your Father, Go to Your Room and Think About It. So that was the title of the talk. I agree with you. The pandemic's just a timeout. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. Always so much great information, and always have such wonderful conversations. To get more information about Jack and the different programs, simply text "What Now" to 72,000. And we'll make sure that we get you that information about all the different programs and how to get a hold of Jack. And again, the reason I said the Success Bible when he brought out the Success Principles, because 10, 11 years ago when the original came out, that's what I called it when I read it for the very first time, and honored to actually be on one of the pages. So the fact is, I want to thank you again, Jack. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll see you next week on Scott Schilling Speaks. God bless.
Your business, but current times have made quality connections hard to find, if not impossible. This is why Be Connected created the Connection Generator, a highly sophisticated, powerful search engine algorithm that will completely revolutionize the way you network and accelerate your results. Now you can experience the Connection Generator for free. Once set up, instantly the Connection Generator delivers the right people for your business using its proprietary artificial intelligence matchmaking technology. Think of it like dating software, but for the business world. We just changed the questions. Instant messaging, multiple ways to connect, and a 5-star user-generated rating system creates an experience that eliminates spam and wasted effort without ever leaving your home or office. During your free trial, you'll see the Connection Generator is super simple to use. In fact, people from all backgrounds and industries, from CEOs to entrepreneurs to work-at-home moms, use the Connection Generator to find their ultimate business connections. When you sign up for your free trial offer, you'll discover the Connection Generator scans industry, geographic location, and even target audiences to match you to the very best of the best, to include highly successful leaders just like you. So if you're ready to start leveraging technology, you're just a click away from activating your free trial and instantly connecting to exact matches just for you. Once you're a member, best of all, we can show you how to qualify for free continuing membership. It's our way of saying thanks for being a part of Be Connected. So what are you waiting for? Click now and get started today for free.